11-year-old Ben Baddeley has cerebral palsy. He wrote to the Prime Minister because the NHS won't pay for his treatment. Today, he's off to Downing Street to ask David Cameron in person. We'll be speaking to Ben after 10:30. From Devon. 3 times a week, Ben Baddeley, who has cerebral palsy, has life-changing physio to help him to walk unaided. His dream is to play football in the park this summer. But the cost of his £450 a week treatment is being paid for by his family, and the money, frankly, is running out. Taking matters into his own hands, 11-year-old Ben wrote to the Prime Minister, asking why he wasn't entitled to treatment and asking what he could do to help. To his surprise, he heard back, but he wasn't happy with the response. Today he's going back to Downing Street to deliver a letter to Mr Cameron once more. And Ben and his mum Amy are here. Thank you very much for coming on the programme.
Hi.
Hi Ben, thanks for coming on. I think it might be really useful, Amy, for people who want to learn more about cerebral palsy, just to describe what it is and how it affects your son.
Yeah, it's brain damage and scarring. When we move our arms and legs averagely, the brain channels those nerve signals to our fingers, our toes, and we can move freely. With children like Ben and sufferers like Ben, those nerves come through like a muffled because they have scarring on the brain. Right. So the signals then misfire and they cause a constant tightness. The easiest way to explain and to allow someone to kind of get the idea of what it feels like is if you tense yourself up, that's what a sufferer feels every single day.
Right. Every minute of every single day?
Every day, yeah.
Wow. Okay, and Ben was diagnosed as a young baby, weren't you, Ben?
Yeah.
Tell us how it affects you. What would you say?
I was really tight and really uncomfortable. I had, just before my operation, I only had half days at school because I couldn't cope with the amount of pain. And now that I've had my operation, I'm in full days and I can write with a pen or...
And that was an operation that Ben was due to have on the NHS?
That's right.
But it got cancelled?
Yeah, that's right. Our local hospital transferred Ben to Nottingham to see a specialist surgeon that deals with spinal surgery. He was accepted as an excellent candidate and we were put on the SDR programme. He went through 2 years of pre-op tests and body conditioning. It was hard work, wasn't it, little man?
Yeah.
We had to get his body ready for surgery, but at the same time he had to be taken off all of his medication because obviously it wouldn't be safe to put a child to sleep with all that medication in their system. So he was taken off all the medication in preparation, and it was it was 5 days. We were due to go in on the Thursday and we got the letter on the Saturday.
And what happened?
They basically said that they were no longer funding that type of treatment and that the NHS were no longer able to fund it for anybody. It wasn't just Ben.
Right.
We weren't singled out or anything. It was all cerebral palsy sufferers. And when we obviously got in touch with the NHS, the only option was to either sit and wait with a child that was in constant pain or self-fund the final part of the SDR programme, which was the surgery.
Yes.
And they sent us a bill for £11,440.
Wow.
It was a lot of money.
And how did you get the money together for that?
We did an appeal with the BBC, which we're incredibly grateful for, and an anonymous donator came forward and he paid directly into Nottingham for Ben. Ben was then put back on the waiting list and waited 2 weeks for his surgery. And you had the operation at Nottingham, didn't you?
Yeah.
In the hospital.
But it's not just the surgery, is it? It's the intensive physio, which is absolutely crucial.
It is, yeah.
Which comes afterwards.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just that you were raising £11,500 for the op. It's the intensive treatment.
Yeah, it was kind of getting. We had this slapped on us to start with, and then when we got home from the hospital, after being drilled into us how important the rehab was, if Ben was ever going to stand a chance of walking or being able to use his hands, he had to have this intensive physio.
Yes.
And we were home only a few days, weren't we, little man?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the cuts and everything, our local physio department haven't been commissioned to help Ben. but again, we're not singled out. It is everybody. We're not the only ones.
So you've been trying to pay for that yourself, which
Yes.
is several £100s every week.
Yeah, it comes to just under £2,000 a month.
Right.
It's £150 per hourly session. And ideally he needs 3 sessions a week, and at the moment we've had to drop one because we're really struggling to fund. My husband works all the hours he can get, and we do a lot of fundraising.
Ben, can I ask you about the physio? What actually happens? What do you have to do?
First I go in, I have some stretching, and then it's things like leg raises and planks.
And your gym ball, you have to sit on that, don't you?
Yeah.
We've got all sorts of different equipment that's been kindly donated to him through charities and stuff. You've got your bike now, haven't you, as well?
Yeah.
What?
I can ride that without my legs being sellotaped to the pedals now.
You can. It's a 2-wheel bike, and it's something he's always wanted to be able to do, and he can ride that now.
Yeah. And I think you decided that you wanted to write to the Prime Minister, didn't you, Ben?
Yeah, I wanted to find out why you can't just fix the NHS for everyone.
And what did you think of his reply?
It wasn't what I asked, it was just going over what the NHS said to us a few months back.
What were you hoping from that letter, Amy?
In all honesty, I didn't expect him to get a reply, and we were really shocked when he got a reply. But immediately when I opened it, I was disappointed because Ben spent 2 days writing his letter, because he's obviously only just started being able to use his hands. And it was a printout letter that he had signed it. And it was just to say, we've been in these conversations with the NHS since the beginning, and it was as though he'd just printed off what they'd said. And we were very disappointed. You could tell from the letter that he hadn't looked at not just Ben's situation, but the whole of the cerebral palsy situation within the NHS. We're not the only ones struggling. It's across the whole of the country. And his reply was sort of, I'm sorry that it's happened to you, but well done for fundraising and paying for your own treatment. But that's not what the NHS is there for, is it? We've got a National Health Service, and it needs fixing, like he says. I agree with him. Everything's very black and white with a child, and he just doesn't understand, and it's very difficult from a parent point of view to try and explain that, because he is right. Something needs to happen somewhere to help.
And you've written again, and you're going to Downing Street.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Ben?
I'm a bit nervous.
Don't be.
It's just a big door.
And what have you written in this letter?
I've told them again that he's not answered my questions, and asked them again, and it's just annoying that he's not answered my questions.
What you want, Amy, is your local trust to pay for the physio. That's the bottom line, isn't it?
That's the bottom line, yeah.
And you understand that the pot of money is apparently finite, or certainly the decisions or the choices the government makes means that the money is not.
Yeah, I mean,
when they have to make decisions.
When Mr. Cameron replied, he is right. This funding goes to certain commissioning groups, and then they have to make an educated decision as to who gets the funding. But how can they make a proper opinion and a real decision when they're stuck with a bottom line of an amount that they have to spend? If they had the total that they needed to treat all the children in those staffs, I'm sure they would. But they can't do that on a shoestring, can they? Yeah. It's difficult.
If the money isn't forthcoming, what are you going to do?
Keep fighting.
Yeah.
Got him this far. Ben went from being in a wheelchair to being able to freely walk here today. And there's lots of other children out there.
Progress, isn't it?
Amazing.
That's a magnificent achievement, Ben. Don't you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
He's doing amazingly well, aren't you?
Yeah.
And we've got the proof. I mean, I'm logging everything down. I mean, I know I'm just one person and he's just one little child, but you've got to fight for something. You've got to fight and hope that we can only hope and we can only try.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for talking to us.
And thank you for letting us come and see you.
Not a problem.
Say
Not a
thank you.
problem. Good luck. Good luck this afternoon. We have contacted North Staffordshire Clinical Commissioning Group, and a spokesperson said we are unable to comment on individual cases. However, we would always look to work closely with any family that is seeking specialist support for complex care needs. We commission a quality physiotherapy service for children in the local area, which has the skills and capability to support complex rehab. Our priority is to ensure that any child receives the NHS care and treatment that is clinically appropriate for their needs. We'd encourage the family to contact us if they need any support in applying for private physiotherapy. And this statement from a Downing Street spokeswoman who said the Prime Minister looks forward to receiving Ben's letter and will of course respond as soon as possible. Under this government, NHS spending in England will increase by £10 billion over the next 5 years.